So Bernie Sanders has been a longtime advocate for closing tax loopholes for multinational corporations, and he has spoken out against corporate tax dodging. Now, finally, he introduced a bill that would end this horrible phenomenon once and for all. So he issued a press release which states, citing new evidence that many profitable corporations evade paying any U.S. income taxes, Senators Bernie Sanders and Brian Schatz Thursday introduced a bill to eliminate tax breaks that encourage corporations to shift jobs and profits offshore. Representative Jan Schakowsky introduced a companion bill in the House. In addition to closing loopholes, the Corporate Tax Dodging Prevention Act would tax the $2.4 trillion that American corporations currently hold offshore at the full corporate tax rate of 35%. The Institute on Taxation and Economic Policy released a report Thursday showing that 100 large profitable corporations paid zero or less in federal income taxes at least once in the last 8 years. 18 corporations, including General Electric, International Paper, Priceline.com, and PGE, received tax refunds from the IRS on their combined profits from 2008 to 2015. The study also found that 48 corporations paid an effective tax rate of less than 10% over that period. On average, large, profitable corporations in the United States paid an effective federal income tax rate of 21.2% over the 8-year period, slightly over half than the statutory 35% tax rate. Here's the simple truth. You can't be an American company only when it benefits you. You also have to be an American company when it comes to paying your fair share of taxes, Sanders said. Instead of giving a $550 billion tax break to corporate tax dodgers, as President Trump has promised, our legislation will raise at least $1 trillion in new revenue over the next decade. The legislation would end the rule allowing American corporations to avoid paying U.S. taxes on profits they hold offshore. This would end the incentive for companies to stash profits in tax havens like Bermuda and the Cayman Islands. The bill would make several other reforms, including a ban on American corporations pretending to be foreign companies for tax purposes by inverting or using a post office box in an offshore tax haven as official headquarters. So this is long overdue, and this is an issue that's not even controversial when you poll the American people, because by and large, they are behind Bernie Sanders on this issue because, of course, it's only fair that these multinational corporations pay the same tax rate as us. So, I mean, before we even see our checks, and, many instances, about 30 to 40% of it is deducted in taxes. Meanwhile, these assholes make billions in profits and get away with zero taxes. I mean, he said that they pay less than zero in some cases. So they actually get a refund when they didn't pay anything. So, I mean, when we get refunds, it's because we paid too much. They paid zero and they get refunds. Like, this only works if you game the system. Now, even though this is common sense policy and the American people are overwhelmingly in support of this type of legislation, well, the chances that it will get passed are near zero. Now, that's frustrating because you think, well, why is it that something so popular has no chance of passing? Well, it's because these multinational corporations that evade paying taxes, they also buy our politicians. So what they do is they contribute to the campaigns of Democrats and Republicans, and then they lobby them saying, look, all of these taxes that we're forced to deal with, it's just too much, and we're going to have to cut jobs, or we're going to have to ship our jobs overseas to, compensate somehow. So they basically buy politicians, they give them money, and then they ask them for policies that are favorable to their companies. And this is why this type of legislation will not be codified into law until we get money out of politics. Because unless we have a Congress that's not bought and paid for by these same corporate tax dodgers, we're never going to get this type of legislation passed. And it's frustrating because Congress, we live in a representative democratic republic, right? So we're supposed to have people in Congress represent our desire. So if it's our desire to end corporate tax dodging, why aren't they doing it? Well, because they don't really represent us. They represent the people who give them money. And your $10, well, that's not going to buy you access. So good luck. You can give them another $10 and they'll claim to appreciate that. But if you really want to get access to the politicians, you need to donate thousands of dollars to them. But obviously, we can't do that. Normal peasants like us can't do that. So they rely on these multinational corporations to basically finance the entirety of their elections. And then they get in office and they do the bidding of these tax dodgers. It's so frustrating. But at the same time, I think that these types of legislations, introducing them, even though it's tantamount to just symbolism, it's still really important because the fact that a bill like this is sitting in Congress collecting dust, well, it shows that Congress doesn't represent the American people, and they need to know that they have a bill that will do what they want. It will stop these multinational corporations and billionaires from dodging taxes, yet Congress doesn't want to pass it. Well, this should communicate to you the obvious. They don't represent you. They represent their donors.
Support this podcast by joining the independent progressive media revolution today at humanistreport.com.